Hi there everybody. For today's lecture we want to review two discovery protocols. One is Cisco proprietary and one is standards. And these two protocols are CDP or Cisco Discovery Protocol and LLDP or Link Layer Discovery Protocol. I believe that we are still in warm-up situations. Our scenarios are very easy and just we are becoming ready for more complex scenarios. Before I start today's lecture and configurations, I want to tell you something about CDP and LLDP. CDP and LLDP, Cisco Discovery Protocol and Link Layer Discovery Protocol. As I mentioned before, CDP or Cisco Discovery Protocol, as its name shows that, is Cisco proprietary and you could use it if you have Cisco devices. But LLDP is a standard protocol which helps you to have the same information as CDP in a multi-vendor environment. CDP and LDP both are protocols which helps you to discover the devices which resides in your network and where they connect, which interface, what are their capabilities, and different useful informations. And they could help you to prevent unauthorized access to your network. For example, by some softwares, you could check your networks, the connections, and find unauthorized devices that are connected to your networks. Obviously, these informations are available on devices that are supported them. If you buy a very cheap switch, for example, or someone buy a very cheap switch, which is not more than $10 or $15 nowadays, and connect them to your networks, obviously they don't support CDP nor LDP. Therefore, you could not find these types of devices. And if you want to have informations which are provided by these protocols, all of the devices should support them and send their protocols information. CDP is popular and all of you knows about them from CCNA, but LDP maybe needs some more descriptions. LDP is a standard protocol which provides us information such as CDP and in some situations maybe more informations. LDP sends its information in type of TLV or in TLV format, type, length, and value. And different information could be sent with different TLVs. For example, system name is sent by a TLV, or the management address may be sent by another TLV, or any other informations. There is a special type of TLV which is called TLV-MED or Media Endpoint Device. These type of TLVs are related to audio-visual devices such as VoIP phones. By default, TLV is not enabled on Cisco devices and you have to enable them manually if you want to use them. The point is that basic TLVs and TLV-MEDs are supported by devices, and when you enable TLVs on a Cisco devices, basic TLVs and TLV-MEDs are both supported and enabled, but both of them could not work together. And if a switch receives a TLV-MED on a port, start the conversation with the other side with TLV-MEDs. And from that point, both of the devices talk to each other with TLV-MEDs, not by basic TLVs. So an interface could not work with both of TLVs, and only one of these TLVs could be enabled at each time, basic TLVs or TLV-MEDs or MED. The other difference between CDP and LDP are their times, which could be changed as we know that. CDP sends every 60 seconds by default its packets, and the whole time is 180 seconds. We could change both of these timers. I will show you how. And LLDP timers are 30 seconds. LDP sends packets every 30 seconds and the whole time is 120 seconds. Now let's review our today's scenario. We have 8 tasks to do for today's mission. Put 3 I/O devices, 2 switches and 1 router, but do not connect them because we want to change the host names and we want to see the consequences when we issue show commands. Change the host names to arbitrary names. I put switch 1 and switch 2 and router 1. You could choose your names. Then connect the devices. Check the enability of CDP and LLDP default status I want to show you that by default CDP is enabled and sending the packets, but LLDP is not enabled by default. Then check the CDP and LLDP outputs and see the neighbors, and disable CDP on switch 2 and disable LLDP on router 1, and then check the consequences. Besides these, I show you how to change CDP and LLDP timers. They are not in Cisco CCNP switch topics, but I show you how to change these timers. Let's start our today's mission. Okay, I put switch 1, switch 2, and router 1. Let me change the symbol to make more sense. This is a router, and then start these devices and connect them to their consoles. Again, I have to tell you that if you're not familiar how to emulate IOU devices in GNS3, please refer to my other course in Udemy entitled Cisco Labs with Advanced GNS3 Features. You will find useful information there. Now I wait until these devices bring up. Here we go. We have our 3 devices, so I first change the names. Host name switch 1, IOU2, host name switch 2, and IOU3, host name router 1. Now I connect these devices together. I connect Ethernet 0 to 0/1 and 0/1 to 0 of a router. Now we want to check CDP and LLDP default status. If you issue the command show CDP without any parameters, you will see the status of the CDP. You see that global CDP information, sending CDP packets every 60 seconds, sending a hold time value of 180 seconds, and sending CDP version 2 advertisement is enabled. This means that CDP is enabled globally on this device. And if we issue show LLDP, again without any parameters, we could see the LLDP status on this device. You see that LLDP is not enabled on the device. If you want to enable LLDP and CDP, if it is not enabled, both of them have one grammar or rule. CDP and LLDP both could be enabled or disabled globally on the device, or enabled or disabled per interface. So you could enable or disable CDP and LLDP globally on a device, or do it per interface. If you want to enable or disable CDP globally on a device, you could choose CDP run or no CDP run. CDP run will enable CDP globally and no CDP run will disable it. Let me show you. As you see that CDP was enabled on this device, and if I issue no CDP run, you will see that CDP is not enabled globally. Okay, the same is true for LLDP. Let me enable CDP again with CDP run. The same is true for LLDP. If you want to enable LLDP globally on the device, you have to issue the command LLDP run. Now we have LLDP enabled on this device, and you could see the consequences. Status is active, advertisements are sent every 30 seconds, hold time is 120 seconds, and reinitialization delay is 2 seconds. And if you want to disable it globally, you have to issue the commands no LLDP run. But if you want to enable or disable CDP or LLDP per interface, you have to select the related interface, for example interface ET0/0 on this device, and issue the commands no CDP enable, or CDP enable for enable it, or no CDP enable for disable it. By this command, CDP is only disabled on this interface, not globally. And the same is true for LLDP. No LLDP receive or transmit. You could select to disable or enable receive of TLVs or sending TLVs, and or both receive and transmit. You could issue the commands no LLDP receive and no LLDP transmit. And if I issue show running config command, you will see the configuration on this interface. No LLDP transmit, no LLDP receive. But since I connect this interface to the other side, I have to enable it. So again, I go to interface ET0/0 and enable it with LLDP transmit and LLDP receive and CDP enable. With these configurations, you could enable or disable CDP and LLDP globally or per interface. Now, before we move further, I want to show you how to change the timers. It's very easy. To changing CDP timers in global configuration mode, you could choose CDP timer and select your CDP sending packets intervals. And if you want to change the hold time, you could issue the command CDP hold time and mention your hold time in seconds. The hold time is the time when if a device did not receive CDP or LLDP packets from the neighbors, it removes it from its neighbor table, in CDP neighbor table of course, or LLDP neighbor table. The same is true for LLDP. If you want to change LLDP packet timers, you could choose LLDP timer, and if you want to change hold time, you set LLDP hold time and the length of time in terms of seconds. It's very easy. Now let's forward to our scenario. Now we are configure LLDP on switch 1. I want to do it on the other side too, because it should be enabled on both sides, and I enable it globally on 3 of them. LDP run. And now first let me issue the command show CDP neighbors. You see that this device switch 1 has 2 neighbors, switch 2 and router 1. The local interface, which means this device interface, switch 1 interface, Ethernet 0/0, is connected to port ID, means the other side port number, Ethernet 0/1. The platform is Linux because it is provided by Linux. If you have other devices such as routers and switches, you will see the platform, for example, it is C2960 for switches, or router 2811, or any other platforms. The capabilities for switch is RSI, it means router, switch, and IGMP. And for router 2 is RB, the legend is here. Router is R is for router and B is for source route range. And if you have many neighbors, many CDP neighbors, and you want to select the exact one which is connected to interface, for example ETH 0/0, you could customize your output with show CDP neighbors ET 0/0. You will see that the only CDP neighbor which is connected to this interface is shown in output. If you want to have more details about CDP neighbors, for example the addresses, IP addresses, the MAC address, and many other informations, you could issue the commands show CDP neighbors detail, and you will see many other informations about the other sites. This is for switch 2 and this is for router 1. Again, you could customize this output too. I mean, you could issue show CDP neighbors ET 0/0 detail. I want to see the detailed information about this specific neighbor, and you will see the desired output. The same is true again for LLDP. If you want to see LLDP neighbors, you could issue show LLDP neighbors. Again, you will see that there are 2 neighbors, and if you want to customize it, you could say, for example, show LLDP neighbors ET 0/0, and again we have the detailed keyword. Everything seems to be similar in both CDP and LLDP. And you will see that again More informations about the device are shown here: the chassis ID, the port ID, description, the name of the other site. I want to show you a complete output for show LLDP because it could be very helpful. This output is for a Cisco IP phone. You will see that the regular information from LLDP is just like the CDP, the IP, the platform, the description, the MAC address, and the IP address, the connections capabilities, and other. But you see that MED information's here. MED codes legends is here. You will see that there are very useful information could be advertised through MED, just like the VLAN which this device is connect. You could use it and send it to softwares and see that, for example, this device is today connected to this switch and tomorrow is connected to another switch, and track the changes in your network. Some information about the QoS or quality of service, layer 2 priority, the DSCP value, and many other useful information could be earned from MEDs. Now let's continue our configurations. You see this. The next task is disable CDP on switch 2 and disable LLDP on router 1. I go to configurations on switch 2 and disable CDP on this device, no CDP, run, and disable LLDP on router with no LLDP, run. And in switch 1, if I issue show CDP neighbors, you will see that switch 2 hold time will go under 120 and the other side did not send, and this timer decreases until 0 and it's removed from CDP neighbors table. And for LLDP in GNS3, you have to issue show LLDP neighbors detail command. You see that the timer is 98 seconds now for switch 1, and for router it should be less. You see that it is 6 seconds, and if we wait for 6 seconds, you will see that it is removed from LLDP neighbors. You see that there is no router 1 in LLDP neighbors of switch 1. And show CDP neighbors again to see the status of switch 1. You see that the hold time is 0 for switch 2, and now it should be removed from CDP neighbors. In real devices, the hold time should be shown here and it decreases, but in GNS3, if you want to see the exact hold time which is remaining, you should issue show LLDP neighbors detail command. To wrap up today's lecture, we put 3 devices, 2 switches and 1 router in our scenario. We change the host names, we connect them together, we check the CDP and LLDP with show CDP and show LLDP without any parameters, and you see that CDP is enabled by default and LLDP is disabled by default. You've learned that how to enable or disable LLDP and CDP globally or per interface, and how to change the timers with the CDP timer or CDP hold time commands. We check the outputs with different commands: show CDP neighbors interface, show CDP neighbors detail, and see the outputs. And the same output for LLDP, we disable CDP on switch 2 and disable LLDP on router 1 and see the consequences. You saw that switch 2 is removed from CDP neighbors table and router 1 removes from LLDP neighbors. I hope this lecture helps you to improve your knowledge, and see you in the next lecture.